it sounds to me like there were a lot of things that were coming to a head at this particular point. I don't think this is I don't think this is the first incident. Like there's no way that this is the first instance this all happened. When I go back and watch the video, I honestly have no idea what Kyle Busch is mad at.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. California's Kevin Harvick does it. Tree making right there. You're the man.
Welcome to Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour, presented by NASCAR on Fox. I'm Kevin Harvick, Kaitlyn Vincie, Mamba Smith. We're here.
We're here. Can you see him? He's all decked. Yeah. He's
ready for the weekend.
Yeah.
His U.S. Army outfit on.
Hair and makeup, we called him G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe.
Yeah, this is my dad's jacket. He was a chef.
I love that, though.
Yeah, he was a chef.
Oh,
I don't know
really?
how he fit in this because he...
In the Army?
Yeah, in the Army.
I don't understand the Army shirt and the ice cream shirt. Is it just because of the color? Or
Well, yeah, so it's a color thing. And while you're in Charlotte this week for the race, make sure you go by and get some 2 scoops ice cream.
He just used your podcast for an advertisement. You see that? Did you see that?
I'm still not sure that it's very manly to wear the Army shirt and the ice cream shirt
You thinking that meant you don't like ice cream? Who doesn't like ice cream?
You don't like ice cream? Hey, we all love ice cream. And we all love the closers. And we encourage all of the closers to continue subscribing on YouTube. Give us a 5-star review. Leave a word for Kevin to use. Because the weeks are dwindling down on how long Kevin can use a word. Because the Fox half is...
Yeah,
it's
3 more
starting
weeks.
to creep down. So
Shrink
get
down.
those requests in
quick.
and maybe have one used, right?
Yeah, no, 3 weeks?
3 more weeks. Yeah.
Wild.
That's
That went
crazy.
fast.
All right, closers, get them rolling. Keep sending them in. We appreciate you. Make sure you give us those 5-star reviews.
Yes, and follow along on Harvick Happy Pod for all the happenings on the show. And guys, we literally have nothing to talk about today, so we should just get up now, right?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty
slow
news day, huh?
Slow show.
Let's just ring the bell. Let's
ring
just get
the
after
bell.
it.
Yeah.
Let's just get
There's
after
so
it.
much to talk about after a very eventful weekend out in North Wilkesboro. But we want to start with your weekend in particular. We've been talking about this for a while. The fact you were going to be in the 5-car for Kyle Larson, Hendrick Motorsports. You did a great job. It was really fun to watch you.
It was. I figured the suit would fit perfectly on the
screen. I see it.
I hung it in the background. Just why not? I figured, what the heck? Let's just make this a new piece of the set. So
I love it.
We figured that could live there, but it was awesome. I had a great time. Cliff Daniels, Rick Hendrick, that whole bunch, completely professional bunch of people that love racing, and I love racing as well. So that whole experience, I was embedded in it from the seat fitting all the way through all the team meetings, all the way till the time that Kyle got there, and didn't have to change a thing inside the car. Rodney and everybody from SHR helped all the guys from Hendrick, and they got that favor returned, by the way, when their cars were underwater.
That's
they had
right.
to pull their cars
Yes.
out of the water. Cliff went over and got all the SHR cars out of water.
What a guy.
So that saved them. But you know, Clint gave me grief because I went too fast at the beginning of practice. He said,
When does he not give you grief?
He said, I can't believe that you went out there and just went for it like that. I said, well, I'd already been to the simulator and went through everything there. I mean, I'm still only 7 or 8 months removed from the car. But it was a great process to be able to go through with a great bunch of people. Kyle Larson's got a great race team. Hendrick Motorsports has a great group of people, and I enjoyed it. You know, I think that the hardest thing for me is just I was a little rusty, a little choppy with those hands and feet and everything that goes with driving the cars fast. But we talk about it all the time. If you're going to be good and race with these guys, you got to do it every week. But I wasn't last.
That's
You weren't
right.
last. You hit your mark.
Yes.
Wasn't last.
You did pretty well.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. So what about the physicality of driving these cars? Because you talk about that specifically, like how hard they hit and everything. Yeah. But you've been out of the seat, but you've been still working out and everything.
I haven't changed anything outside of the car. Thank God.
What's your workout routine?
Yeah. Well, you know, that's proprietary.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday typically.
Okay.
And you know, during the week, I'll do the cold plunge and the sauna and everything to go along with that. And so, I fit in the same seat belts. We didn't have to change the seat belt size. And I felt really good about myself when I got out of the car because I heard Ryan Blaney's interview. I'm like, he's winded. And then I heard Noah Gragson after his interview when we told him the fan boat was coming, he could barely get it out, the words out of his mouth to tell us that he was excited and happy. But it was physical, guys. And being inside that race car, that racetrack was fast. I think they told me it was like 25 miles an hour faster corner entry speed than it was the year before. And you were burning laps quick. And it was, mid 18, high 18 second laps in practice. And you were knocking them off pretty quick. But with that, it was it was intense inside the car. Heart rate was up. And I think I did 53 laps in a row on our long run on the soft tires. So I was a little caught off guard just from how physical it actually was. I figured it was going to be, a load of work since I hadn't been in a car. But I will admit, my neck was a little bit sore.
You didn't fall out of the seat.
A little bit sore. But my heart rate came down pretty quick. Yeah. So I was pretty happy with that. But these guys were in a full-blown workout inside the car this weekend.
Enjoyable experience for you. I was told by people at Hendrick they enjoyed having you there as well. You made the joke you almost didn't recognize him in the white fire suit because you obviously were so used to seeing him in something else.
It reminds me of Tom Brady going from New England to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like you used to seeing somebody in a certain uniform with certain logos and it's completely different. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if you went back to RCR, I would have been like, oh, my brain would have clicked in. Like, that makes sense. But I think it's the HendrickCars.com. Like it's all Hendrick. And I'm like, this is weird. Like, this is different.
The HendrickCars.com thing is real. Mr. Hendrick, I mean, he called me 2 or 3 times throughout this whole process and talked on the phone, sent me text, wanted to know how everything was going. And he was super engaged the whole time, and he's super engaged with his race team the whole time. And I think that makes a difference in the owner being able to be involved and understand the inner workings of his team. And, the people are so important. And when the owner is involved, it allows those people to open up and talk about the things that are going on. It makes it easier to solve problems. And so you can tell that he's very involved with everything that's going on.
I'm glad it went well for you. And I'm glad it went well for Kyle Larson, who had a very busy weekend, very impressive weekend, qualifying for the Indy 500. Made it back in time to North Wilkesboro. Plenty of time. It was cool to hear all the fans cheering as the helicopter came in as he was arriving to the racetrack. It was just a very neat moment. What has impressed you the most about what you've seen out of Kyle Larson? Just anytime he gets in anything, it's almost like he has some sort of a superhuman ability.
Well, I want to say this first. Okay. I heard that reaction. We were up doing the pre-race show in Victory Lane, and I honestly think that we have a battle on our hands for the most popular driver. It's coming. Yeah. It may not be 100% this year, but people are slowly realizing, Kyle Larson, he's never going to be that flashy, over-the-top guy. That's just not him. And he is the type of guy that's going to wow you with what he does in the race car and the things that he does, just like he did this week, right? Goes to Indy, fastest rookie, top 12, in the Fast 6, hops on the helicopter and the airplane, gets to the racetrack. Need anything, Kyle? I'm good, Kev. Okay. Gets in the car, takes him a few laps. Right through. Next thing you know, 3 laps in, we're looking up on the racetrack, and he's in the middle, passing 3 wide. And by the end of the race, we're talking about him winning the race. And I honestly think that he has the ability to go to Indianapolis and be in that mix to win the race. And it's no different. It's just not a big deal for him to go out and do the things that he does. He just has this crazy ability to adapt to anything that he drives and figure it out and understand and watch and just go do it. And that is not normal for most race car drivers. I was one of those guys that was very much, hey, I drive stock cars. I want to drive my car with my seat, and I want to do that week after week after week. And if we're going to go race late models and we're going to go to a different track, it's like, hey, I need to go drive the car. I need to get used to it. Not the case with Kyle Larson. And so I heard that ovation that he gets, and I think every day that goes by, whether it's in a sprint car, whether it's in a cup car, whether it's in an Indy car, slowly but surely that fan base just keeps going up and up and up. And he's winning some of those battles, trackside merchandise, on a weekly basis, which has not been the case. And, if he goes out and does what we all think he'll do at Indy and in the game, that conversation is real.
Kyle has not changed since we won the Can-Am Championship in 2012. He's been the same guy. Like, he always rolls in, calm, cool, and collected. You know, at that time, he was doing a lot of sprint car racing. So he'd flying in from Iowa and then raced with us and flew back out. And he'd nap. All right, Kyle, you ready to go racing? Yeah, all right, cool. Jumps in the car, hauls ass. Like, he's just doing it at a high level, and it seems effortless. And I know he puts a lot of effort into the craft of driving, but you said something about the merchandise sales and the fan vote. I think that he is doing merchandise like they do with the sprint cars and the late models on dirt. And like, they have their own little merchandise trailer that he takes to some of the cup races. You can buy all of his merch, whether it's whatever he's driving. I think he's a really likable guy, and he's not flashy, but he is. Like,
he's flashy because of what he does in the car.
Exactly. His demeanor, and he just loves racing. It reminds me of when guys talk about in basketball, a hooper. Like, someone who just loves to play basketball. He just loves driving race cars. Yeah, and he just does that.
So here's one interesting dynamic that I figured out as I did this whole process with Cliff. He's as bought in as Kyle is, in just understanding. Hey, he might be coming from driving a sprint car. He might be coming from driving an Indy car. Nobody there wants him to not do that. Everybody there has bought into the fact that Kyle Larson just needs to be Kyle Larson. Let him go race. Let him go drive a sprint car. Let him go do Indy. He's going to get back here and he's going to figure it out. And Cliff is bought into that. The team is good with that. And yeah, I mean, there's going to be some things that happen here and there that might get messed up or screwed up, but it's going to be few and far between when he shows back up. He's going to adapt and adjust, but those guys have a system built around what they do as a team to understand that Kyle is coming from a different form of racing, and their way of communicating with him, when they communicate with him, how much they communicate with him, is very strategic as to when they do all that stuff. And I found that conversation with Cliff about that to be very intriguing, but also very good in the fact that they've developed their system around who they think Kyle is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because there's a age-old debate about racing these other disciplines, and some team owners have strong feelings about that. They want them focused solely.
Used to be that way.
Yeah, on the Cup side, but we've seen that obviously evolve for him. Now he'll be one of 5 drivers to do the double, which is going to be really interesting to see this unfold. Maybe he'll win both of them. Can you imagine?
So this is why. So I texted him after he ran qualifying. I'm like, hey man, like, I hope you take a minute to really acknowledge what you've done since 2020. Like from that point to this point, you need just breathe and just think about it, because what you're doing right now is crazy to everybody. But if he went, let's say he gets, if he top 5s, right? Let's say top 5. I think that he is unquestionably the best driver on the planet right now. If he top 5s, if he top 3s or better, then you're talking about putting him in that GOAT conversation with other people, I think. Because even without the championships, he wins so much and he runs these cars at such a high level. That's what I think.
Well, I think it's and I also had this conversation with Cliff. I said, man, just make sure he looks around just a couple times to make sure that he understands the magnitude of what is happening and where he is and the importance to himself as to what he's doing, because it's very easy to just go to those things and just check boxes, right? Or just go do it because it's so easy during that time. I mean, there are some moments that I look back and say, man, I wish I would have just enjoyed that a little bit more during that moment, but it's going to be hard to make him do that. But I think, taking the whole team there and all those Hendrick employees going to the Indy 500 for Carb Day and including his stock car guys, NASCAR guys in that IndyCar situation, I think will actually help Kyle.
Yeah,
he's over there with a bunch of people that he really doesn't know. He's used to hanging out with all the guys that he has and has such a great relationship with his team. Now he's over there in Indy and. I think it's hard to make new friends in a couple weeks.
So you gotta believe all this stuff.
I think having his guys there and being able to enjoy some of those moments with him is going to really kind of loosen him up for the rest of the weekend.
going to be very exciting to watch all of this unfold for Kyle Larson as he attempts the double. So we'll talk about Charlotte later in the show, but we should probably talk about the race that happened over the weekend, the All-Star race. And you get to go earlier in the show today, Mamba, because I know you've got a lot of items you need to get to as it pertains to one very specific event from the weekend.
Yeah. So we're not. I don't need anyone to hold my watch. I'm Ricky Stenhouse.
Not today.
Yeah. So obviously, what has been talked about for the last 3 days on every sports network and all over social media is the fight. So instead of trying to bring in a couple different things, we're going to break down the fight and some of the things that I think are very funny and for you guys to look at. So let's roll the first video here of the fight. And we got Ricky. So this is Ricky and Kyle talking already. Now, Ricky really didn't do anything wrong. This was a real racing deal. I'm sorry.
Until that.
There's a bunch. You can, we don't have audio right now, but you can hear the crack of that. So he's over here. And at this point, Ricky's like, get my dad, get my dad. So Ricky Stenhouse Sr. is over and has Kyle Busch hemmed up over here. Right. And they were kind of getting after it. Kyle is also getting held by 3 people at once.
Yeah.
Which is pretty impressive.
Right.
And I, honestly, Ricky's dad never threw a punch.
No.
I think he was just trying to help break it up. And Kyle did punch him in the face one time. Big Country, he's the big guy that was cleaning everybody out. He was my gas man for a long time. He is a big man.
Listen, Big Country's my dude. So Big Country, sorry, I called you Jason White because I was so excited to get the tweet out. It's Justin White for everybody. So in that video, you see Big Country fall over. So he initially fell with Ricky
and the NASCAR security guard.
So that's a count of 2. Then he gets back up, comes over to find Kyle. He then chucks 2 more people, one of them being his own guy. So he's up to 4. And then there's another guy on the back of the pit gate, on the tailgate, that he's chucking again. So that's 5, and he thought he wanted some more. And I think you see someone else took a thought of stepping on the tailgate and then was like,
never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm okay here.
Thrown off. We got another angle here.
Yeah.
Is Ricky wearing swim trunks? I couldn't tell what.
I think it's
I'm
a
not
chubby
sure
brand.
I'm not sure that he planned his attire out for the fight, but
so funny
it definitely is a topic of conversation.
Yes.
And I think that's a much better view of the shot. And then you see Big Country just clear out the back, and Ricky's dad was trying to do the same right here, and Kyle's still swinging, but. Yeah, it wound up being a melee down there.
How premeditated do you? Because Ricky did those interviews, and he pretty much said, right, once he was eliminated from the race, that he was going to do something. So it's almost like once he said that, he's kind of need to stick by it, right? Per se, and he had a long time to think about it, and you're trapped in there because you can't get out of the racetrack. Yeah. So, I mean, was it just like coming to a head at that point, or what?
I think it sounds to me like there were a lot of things that were coming to a head at this particular point. I don't think this is. I don't think this is the first incident. Like, there's no way that this is the first instance that this all happened. I think when I go back and watch the video, I honestly have no idea what Kyle Busch is mad at. They came up off of turn 2. Kyle, I mean, he drove through a hole. Ricky drove through a hole that was big enough to drive a bus through, and put him 3 wide, and Kyle bounced off the fence and bounced into the side of Ricky, and they made contact. But right here, you could see that Kyle had lost his mind and was angry and drove into turns 1 and 2 right here, and was not letting off until he wrecked him. So I think there's a lot of things here. I think there's something that between Ricky and Kyle that Ricky was obviously frustrated about. Kyle obviously didn't like the position that Ricky put him in off of turn 2 right there. And maybe there's obviously something that Kyle didn't like about that, and probably felt like he was in that position before and felt like this was the night where it all didn't matter. I'm retaliating tonight. But I think Kyle is also frustrated with his situation and everything he has going on currently. Mm-hmm. I think that we finally have seen the trigger that pushed Kyle over the edge with the performance of what they've been doing on the racetrack and the things that have been happening. So you can tell that he's frustrated and not happy. And I don't know any other way to put that. And when you look at Stenhouse and his situation with the things that he said and where he was with Kyle Busch, he just felt like it was time to be done with it. And I think they both took the opportunity of the All-Star race to settle those things up.
He was he was very direct about how he felt. He like thought about it, had time, then went back, knew what he wanted to say to him. And he was like, you could tell he's like, this isn't getting through to him. I'm just going to do it.
Right. It was like,
it's like, I'm sick of this conversation.
Yeah. And I think if you're at that point, right? Like, I mean, you look at it now and those things, you know, you're obviously the adrenaline and things that happen during those moments are, you know, it all happens pretty fast. Yeah. And I think that if I was going to do it, I think if you're going to walk up, I think he should have just decked him right in the walk up.
Right in the initial
right in the walk
meeting.
up.
So someone asked me like, well, that's kind of
have been a harder shot.
Like, I don't know really, right? He didn't see it. What do you want me to say? Like,
was he going to hit him
anyway?
We're
going to fight now? Like, no.
Was he going to hit him anyway? Like, if that conversation goes
I don't think so. I think if Kyle would have said like, hey man, like,
sorry.
I thought something else happened. I think he probably doesn't, but Kyle was like, I suck as bad as you do. Like,
that was an interesting statement he made. Yeah.
And that's why I say the things that I say about Kyle. When he said, I suck as bad as you do, you can obviously tell that frustration is there about the performance of his car. Yeah. And he's done a really good job of managing everything up until this point, but it didn't work out.
Yeah. So Big Country, he got like 6 people. He tossed 6 people.
Tossing them, yeah.
Like the Undertaker. Need a couple honorable mentions here. Davey Siegel.
Yes.
Glad you're okay.
Sirius
Davey got
XM.
landed on by Kyle Busch. Bob Pockris. Bob went viral.
Bob. Yep.
His face it
just
like it
the
was
face.
Terrified.
Yeah, just,
all the emotions on that face. Yes.
So I hope somebody goes through all the angles and clips everyone's faces at the point of impact. There it is. There's Bob.
Look at profile pic. That's fantastic.
That's people have been quoting it and saying when the edibles hit. That's the face that he gets.
His dedication level, though, is so high in those moments. He is going to get the video footage. You cannot hold Bob down.
Bob is one of the funniest people in his delivery and how he
He is.
He's funny.
He is for sure.
Thanks,
in
Bob.
those moments, though, obviously you've been a part of those moments where all the pressure is starting to build and all the teams are kind of coming together. And it's like, are you thinking about, okay, this is probably going to go viral? This is an entertainment moment as much as it is like 2 people coming together for, frustrations.
I think in those moments, you're thinking that I want to absolutely jack this guy. Okay. I'm not thinking about going viral or who I'm going to do the interview with. Like there's a lot of times where you're going back and I'm like, well, this could get bad. And I'd go back and I'd get a rag and wrap it around my hand and make sure that you didn't tear your hand up in those types of situations. But it's, at that point, you don't care.
Right.
Like you're frustrated. And I think there's obviously some things that probably have happened between the 2 of them that led to this frustration with both of them. I think that Kyle's frustrated, like we talked about with where he's at. So I think at that point, you just don't care.
That's fair.
Let me ask you guys. Because some people like, I wish that our rules were like hockey where you like drop the gloves and let them go. I don't really... Because the hard part is like the crew members look at the drivers, like whether it be your quarterback or like a brother, and like when someone hits your guy, you're gonna go find a guy to hit too, right? I don't know if we let it be like hockey, if that would be really the right way to go about it, because you can't just replace these guys. Like not that you can just replace the hockey players, right? I'm not saying that, but there's only 40 of them that do it at this level. And the sponsorship and the teams and everyone is invested in this one person to get the job done, get wins, and go to the playoffs. Like, I don't know if I really want these guys just throwing haymakers at each other, or do you think it would just police itself at that point?
Well, I'm throwing all the crew guys out. I think at the car, they've done a great job of getting the crew guys out of everything. They let NASCAR security handle it. You can tell that everybody's been spoken to about how the crew guys are how they're gonna manage themselves. Nothing against, I want Big Country on my side, but Big Country against Kyle Busch or Ricky Stenhouse or any of these guys, not fair. And I understand they're trying to protect their turf, but NASCAR security there was one on each side, just like it would be at the car. NASCAR was prepared with their security people to manage the drivers. But you can't manage a melee. It's impossible. And when you look back at Texas and some of those melees, but when I look at Ross Chastain and Noah Gragson, that was a very manageable situation, right? NASCAR security handled it. And I think it's got to get to the point that if the drivers are involved in it, everybody else needs to stay out of it. because it just becomes a brawl
right
at that point. So I think there needs to be some very clear lines drawn on what's happening with the drivers and the crew guys, right? And let NASCAR security handle it because they can manage 2 guys. So I could go either way on the fighting piece of it, because if let's just say that's Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch, right? Kyle Larson doesn't want anything to do with a fight. And there's several guys that don't want anything to do with a fight. They're going to talk it out and try to explain it. And then there's just some guys that are going to want to take advantage of that by being the bigger person or whatever that scenario is. So I can see it in many different views, but crew guys got to keep their hands off the drivers.
Do you believe there will be any repercussions for anyone and also fallout between these 2 drivers moving forward?
Well, there's obviously some tension between the drivers, and I think that I hope it continues. To be honest with you,
You want it to carry over?
I hope that rivalry pushes forward, because I think that's the type of stuff that
we want.
I think that's the type of stuff I want. So I can't speak for everybody else, but it's the crew guys though. I do not like those guys being involved in it.
I'll give them credit. Because when he parked in their pit stall,
yeah.
I mean, Josh Schobecki is just like grilling him, like, "What are you?" Like he was, and they just chilled. They were just there, you know what I mean? So they didn't do anything at that moment, and they didn't really do anything till Ricky was in their trailer, basically, like at their trailer. So we'll give them credit for
But like I say, NASCAR security, there was one with each driver.
As it should be.
As it should be. That's right. Okay, so that was the big storyline that came out of the weekend. The other one would be, of course, the winner, the driver who won this.
Who won?
Who won?
Yeah,
well, he was here earlier, and Kevin got to interview him, so I know you'll have some firsthand insight into this. For Joey Logano,
yes.
Led nearly every lap. This was huge for their team. We've talked on this show about the fact that it's been kind of a slow come together for them this year.
It has. Ford in general has been slow to come together, but man, are they putting the pieces together quickly over the last month. And when you look at this All-Star race and we go back and we talk about Joey Logano at Richmond and we talk about this North Wilkesboro test and the importance that went with that for the 22 team, well, it played right out at North Wilkesboro too. And Joey gives us some great insight into the things that they went through at North Wilkesboro, and all his relationship with Paul and all the struggles that they had at the beginning of the season. So everybody will have a great listen to that on Thursday with my interview with Joey. So whether it's a points race or not, it's a huge momentum boost for Joey Logano and his team. They have struggled outside of Daytona. They have struggled with the speed and performance that they need in their car. I think this weekend at Charlotte, we're really going to get a good sense of where Penske is. I think Penske in itself has struggled, been a little slower to the punch than RFK. Even SHR has run well here and there, but Penske has kind of been non-existent up until this particular weekend outside of Daytona. So I think Charlotte and the 600 will give us a good indication, because we see a lot of things come together around the 600 from the manufacturers and the teams. You can't just take this ship and say, all right, we're going to turn it this way in 1 week, right? So when you're off, you have to have a plan, and you have to execute this plan to say, okay, we need to be better on the aero side. We're going to do A, B, C, and D. Well, to implement that process and change it to the way that it goes with the cars and where it goes and what you do just takes time to work the rest of the package out with the setups and things that go with that. So long time coming for Logano and his bunch, but 600 will be the place that kind of tells the rest of the story. But the Fords are back.
There they are. Fords are back. Showing a lot of strength over the last couple weeks. What do you think of Joey's performance there?
I mean, classic Joey Logano, right? I mean, there's races where he dominates, and you're like, oh yeah, he's two-time champ Joey Logano.
Yeah.
Like I think people forget that, because he goes in waves, but he wins the big moments. And at times where like they really need it is when they win the most. I feel like he's like clutch in the playoff situations. Obviously, this one doesn't get him into the playoffs, but I thought that they've been a second half manufacturer for the most part for the last couple of years. And they have won, Team Penske has won the last 2 championships. And that's why early on in the year, when Unc was like, these guys suck. I'm like, they're second half team. There we are.
Second half team.
Second half got $1 million.
It still sucks that you got to waste the first half of the year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not what you want to do.
That's not what you want.
You'd rather be good all year.
That's not ideal.
Let's not suck for half the year. We're halfway through the regular season, so it's definitely not the plan that they would have laid out.
That's not what they went in with.
You know what didn't suck was Joey's burnout. And we've obviously been talking about how we want to grade these. So here's a really good one. Kevin seems pretty impressed here out of the gate.
Here's the great part about North Wilkesboro. We're basically, I mean, the windows are rattling in the booth up top. So, the donuts and everything that he was able to just continuously do. Joey Logano is good at burnouts, and this was a great burnout. So I'm giving this one an A. Right to the start finish line with the tire smoke, donut, right on the start finish line. So just continuous smoke and tires spinning, and finally he just puts it perfectly centered on the start finish line.
The thing I love about I don't know if it's this car because of how the pipes come out, but all of a sudden when they get stopped, the smoke starts coming forward and starts rolling out of the front tires. I think that's the coolest picture.
Is cool.
Yeah,
it looks so dope.
I used to like it when you would do it with the old cars, and then you'd while you were doing the burnouts at Indianapolis in 2003. There's a great picture of the burnouts that I was doing down the front straightaway at Indy, and the smoke is coming out of the NACA ducts. It looks like a bull breathing.
It's so cool.
It's
so cool.
So he gave him an A.
He gave him an A. I'm gonna say that's got to be a 10 because he was also it was tight circles.
Easy handing out 10s.
No, I'm gonna do it because of all the smoke.
I don't know.
He's a tougher critic.
He is a tougher critic. I feel like that's
gonna be 9.8.
9.8.
Yeah, I'm going to be like those stingy Olympic
judges. Yeah, no.
Since we're in an Olympic year, we're going to compare ourselves to the Olympics.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna Olympically judge you on your word of the week this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if you're a biased judge from Russia or something.
Yeah. All right. Let's roll the tape. Let's hear it.
The pit stop is going to change the game. It always does, and it will tonight. And that fast pit crew you speak of could be just what the doctor ordered.
Well, the fast pit crew is going to be different. And like we said earlier, you don't want to come on the pit road and fumble the bag and make all the mistakes that it takes to have a bad pit stop. We saw it in the pit crew challenge with all the mistakes that they made on the left rear, and on that left side jack, you got to give it an extra pump in order to get that car high enough to get the left rear tire back on.
Still giving him fits, holding tough on that outside.
So it was so smooth that people are going to have to go back while we just shot it and do it again and listen to it again. Fumble the bag. I did offer you 2, either fumble the bag or secure the bag.
Yeah, but it's way more fun to talk about people messing up.
Of course.
And by the way, that's the quietest Clint Boyer was all night.
Did he realize you said it? Did he know?
I don't think so.
Okay. I was going to say.
They knew the word. They knew the 2 choices, and I went right by it, and I don't think he realized. I don't think he put all the pieces together. Unlike the week before in Richmond, where
you didn't even use the word at first.
It wasn't even the right word, and he's kicking me and punching me and laughing and banging his fist on the table. I was like,
it's not even the right word. Yeah.
That's not the word.
That was smooth though.
Yeah. Well, a lot of fans also weighed in on X that they said how smooth it was, and they thought they maybe had missed it initially. You see this one here, that was pretty smooth, coming from old Dana Wright. Someone else said, he's getting so good at this, I completely missed it. That's a compliment.
Well, I apologize, but I think being smooth with it every once in a while is okay to show that I'm not just a complete hack. But most of the time, I'm going to completely botch the word and make it sound like a word salad.
Word salad.
Yeah, word salad.
What kind of words do you want for the remainder? Because like you were kind of going back and forth there for a while. You like the old school squireism or the.
I think we need I think I need another shot at like a hullabaloo.
Okay. Look how good that he was so ready for that.
All right.
That was good.
Something along the lines of that.
Okay.
So
you have your assignment.
Closers.
I mean, Yeet was the one that sent him over the top.
Yeah, that was Yeet.
Yeet. What? Yeah, Yeet was.
Solid.
Lit started it. Lit started it all off.
Yeah.
That was good, but Yeet really.
We're going to have to get pretty creative this week because we might need more than one. It's a long race.
Oh, true. Maybe we should do a twofer for the Crown Jewel 600.
Yeah.
All right.
What do you think? A lot of pressure on you.
It's me and the closers, we got it.
Do you stress out about this every week, like picking? Because I remember one time we talked and you're like, oh my God, I got to figure out.
Sometimes I like forget. And like I get started into my regular life, and then I'm like, "Is it Saturday? Oh shit! Like I gotta say a word. Like I'm like, what am I gonna do?
Well, hey, we're telling you now. He maybe wants 2 for this week, just in case.
We can do a 2-fer.
Yeah. Okay.
Something.
something.
Come on, be creative. You're the creative one.
That's what I'm here for.
You got Ice Cream and Army.
Ice Cream and Army, baby. We're creative.
Did you hear that?
He's creative in a different way.
I'm like the nerdy student of the group, I think. And you're the creative one.
Is he the professor?
The genius one.
Professor. Did you call yourself a nerd?
I did.
She's a nerd. You should see her notes.
I don't know
notes
that's fair.
He does see my notes. I send them to him every week.
Yeah.
He sees. Okay.
You're like the kid in school that doesn't want to do his work. She's the.
I'm the entertaining one.
She's doing your homework.
She definitely does my homework.
We all have our roles. One thing I want to talk about very briefly before we talk more about the race was some things leading up to the race, the weather. This was unbelievable. The flooding that we saw, was it Saturday, right? Saturday night, truck race was postponed. The rain really came down and the teams were still in there trying to do their jobs, which proved to be a very difficult task.
Well, I don't think we all knew it was going to rain, but I don't think anybody expected this to happen. But the reason all this water got flooded into turn one, there was a pit sign that had flown away and covered the drain.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so the drain was covered in turn one. This guy jumped in right here. But I hope that, oh my goodness.
It was in his mouth. Did you see this?
Yeah, well, I hope that he does. I hope he never finds out, but we're going to break it to him that there was an outhouse upside down in the water with a blue puddle around it. I don't know if it was upstream or downstream, but I'm sure that seemed like a cool thing to do. But man, that outhouse upside down was close.
Ooh, that is foul.
It'd be me.
Yeah, but I mean.
Yeah, we saw a lot of floating tires, but there may have been some floaters in there.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was pretty unbelievable.
Floaters.
That footage of I don't think I've ever thought I'd hear him say that. Christian Eckes walking through the water just up to his knees.
It reminds me of Chicago last year.
Pretty unreal.
Yeah. That was worse than Chicago. I mean, Chicago it was longer, but that was higher water.
When I drove out of the racetrack, they told us right before they canceled it because we had just lost all control and there was a tree that had fallen and knocked the power lines down. So we had no power in the booth.
Oh, wow.
So there was no way that we were doing anything further until they got the power back on so that we could have a television broadcast. So they told us that we could leave. And I drove out. When I drove out and took a left, there was a culvert floating through the ditch.
A culvert was floating through the ditch?
From somebody's driveway because the driveway had washed out and the culvert was just floating down down the ditch next to the road.
So does this count? So we made a bet at the beginning of the year how many races would be. I feel like because it did affect Cup stuff, didn't it? Right? It moved the Cup schedule around a little bit.
Kyle Larson moved the Cup.
Now we're getting. The
asterisk.
I'm just asking.
We had no rain out for the Cup race.
Listen, he does not want to take us to dinner because that was the bet. He's
bet.
like, please no, I don't want to be around these idiots anymore than I have to.
Right now it's 4.
Is it?
And
okay.
I took
he's keeping track.
I took the over.
Yes.
Yeah, I took the over.
What was the number? I don't remember.
The over last year we had 11. So
we're talking about the whole year.
Yes.
The whole year. So you took the under, I took the over.
And we're going to be clean from here on out.
Wow.
We'll see.
Just remember, if it rains, it's Kevin's fault because he's a blue guy, weatherman.
Well, they were able to get the water out of there for the Cup race the next day, which was impressive. Everything was
moved the pit sign.
It looked like nothing was there. It looked like it was never there.
Yeah,
they brought
really
in like
did.
700 tons of gravel or something.
Okay.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so going into this race, we talked a lot about the repave and how this would change the complexion of the race. What'd you think of what you saw in general?
Yeah, well, I think in general, the way that the track raced was not what anybody expected.
Okay.
And I think that the soft tires had a little bit of something to being able to put rubber on the racetrack, but they all chased that banking up the racetrack. The bottom is 10 degrees, the top is 12 degrees. And as soon as they started moving up the racetrack, the groove just immediately started moving all the way to the wall. And by the time they got done with the truck race, the groove was all the way in that top lane through the corners. So the bottom lane was really the preferred line, I think, at the test. When we got done with practice, everybody was kind of in the middle of the racetrack. By the time we got done with practice, the trucks moved it all the way to the wall. And by the end of the Cup race, the preferred line was the top lane. So it was very interesting to see him chase that banking and where the groove progressed. But I think much racier racetrack than what we had last year. You at least have the opportunity to run through the middle of the racetrack. You had lanes to race in on the restart. So I think as North Wilkesboro ages, I think it's just going to get better and better.
Yeah, and we know they'll be back there next year because they made that announcement as well.
Couple things. One, it reminds me a little bit of maybe a Irwindale IRP. By the time it was done, you're on the top, but you can make those dive bombs to the bottom. 2, really excited about seeing some short track, like local racing around that place because the facility looks beautiful. The racing was great. And 3, even Denny Hamlin said the track did a great job.
Hey, look at that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the great part about the way that they repaved this, I don't remember what they called it, but when they did the paving, they tried to leave a lot of the characteristics of the racetrack alone. So that bump off of turn 4 that goes all the way across the racetrack, it's pretty gnarly.
Pretty sporty.
Then there's one
pretty sporty. We saw a lot of cars spark and bounce off the ground right there.
There's one into 1 too, right by the wall that I remember you were talking about. That's what Kyle Larson was really running. Right down at the bottom of 1.
Well, yeah, on the bottom lane down there where Larson was running, they actually took the end of the pit wall out because the angle of the pit wall was facing the wrong direction for the arc of the corner. So they took the end of that pit wall out so that you could run the arc of the corner correctly on entry. But where they dug it out, they couldn't really. They just cut it off and had to just kind of grind it a little bit. So it's just a little bump down there. It's actually not near as bad as what I thought it was going to be.
Before we got to the race, they had the Pit Crew Challenge. Christopher Bell's team won. Same group of guys that won last year got it done. Back-to-back champs. And this race is always cool because we do the driver intros and the crew gets to be up there. I thought Ross Chastain's maybe had the most fun entry in.
Yeah,
what do you
think they did last year too. They came out and he was they had a board and he was like standing on the board with a crown and they came out with like some Viking horn coming out. Like the fan, I love how they walked them through the fans. Yeah, they walked them into the grandstands. I always talk to our NASCAR experience folks and be like, can we get the fans closer to the stage? Like that moment of being able to reach out and high five your favorite driver, it means a lot to people because, they're spending a lot of time and money.
Yeah, and I think the All-Star race has always done a pretty good job of that. And this week, the drivers actually went across down the walkway in front of the grandstands and were able to have those high fives and those moments. I actually got to do a couple laps through the grandstands too.
There you go.
From the booth to the.
Did they recognize you?
We had to go through the crowd.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, to do the pre-race show and then back over across. So that wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But I think that's what the All-Star race is all about, right? That what can we do that's fun and unique? Everybody's a little more laid back and kick back, and you see that with driver introductions with the teams and the drivers, and I love the creativity.
We need a vote.
Cool event.
Next year, we need to set up some award that the teams get for being the most creative, like the fan vote.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
The teams get for being the most creative of their walkout.
Yeah, and then they get really into it.
Yeah, because I want to see everyone. Like AJ came out and he always has a lot of energy. Yeah. But like it was fun and like some of them are just kind of doing a lot of what they already do.
Yeah.
Come on, fellas.
That would have been me.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that I want to point out too is qualifying. Qualifying was very interactive. I thought with the qualifying lap and the pit stop, all the pit crew challenge involved in doing it all at once, because I think that total lap and the pit stop and that pole being locked in for Logano and them having the the fastest overall time and then having the pit crew challenge and the 20 win, you had all this play out within those 3 qualifying laps. So I thought qualifying went well.
Yeah, that's a good point. One other thing that a lot of people were talking about was the tire situation, because this is a unique variable for this race. What did you think about what we saw there with the different tires?
Yeah, well, you'll hear Joey on Thursday explain kind of how the tire scenario played out. But when I practiced the car, we started on the primary tires, which was our standard week tire that we've been running. We ran the first several laps, and then we put the soft tires on. And oh, buddy, did the speeds pick up? I picked up 0.6 of a second.
Ooh, doggy.
Yeah. And corner speeds were up. The handling characteristics of the car changed with the red soft tires on. The car was a little bit tighter than what it was on the primary tires. So you had to change that balance up. I ran 53 laps in a row in practice, waiting for those tires to fall off. They did have some fall off and in practice it looked like lap 12 to 15 was kind of be where they would cross over as far as lap time. And then they leveled off. It looked like they were going to level off a couple tenths slower than the primary tire, the soft tires. But that never really happened in the race. Once all the rubber got on the racetrack, the temperature went down. We had some blistering of the tires in practice. Never really saw any of that in the race. So softest tires that we've ever run from Goodyear, and we ran them throughout the whole race. So I think there's a lot to be learned. And I don't see any reason why we wouldn't take them to Loudon and see what happens on a racetrack that's not a repave.
I got coffee this morning with Steve Letarte, and we were talking about this, and I was like, man, it'd be cool if they just kept it like the option. I would not hate keeping the option of soft or harder tires throughout the year, and then you have a decision to make. And if the soft is too soft, okay, you got the hard ones that won't blow out or anything like that. And then if the soft is too soft, then that's just what you go with. But at least it gives you some variable, and we get to keep learning. Because I'm not sure if you can learn as fast as you need to, just week by week, by just using a soft one. Because then it puts kind of Goodyear and everyone in a weird spot. Like, all right, we want this to be a softer tire, and then it's too soft, and now the race is kind of affected in a weird way. So yeah. I would be interested in seeing what would happen.
Well, I'm not going to say this very often, but that's a great point.
Wait, who had a great point? Real quick, I want this recorded.
Steve
Feel
Letarte.
good now. It's a Steve Letarte point.
No, but I think you make a great point, and I think it would be pretty interesting to just say, okay, we go to Loudon, and you've got 2 sets of these soft tires, and just say, hey, here's your 2 sets. You can run these in the race.
You can run them however you want to too. If you want to put 2 on the lefts and you want the rights to be hard, like, I don't care.
Yeah,
the guys are so smart. Like we talked about off screen, the teams are so smart. They learn so quickly that you got to keep them in this variable, or they're always going to figure out how to get the optimal speed.
A continuous way to keep things mixed up is always good for competition because it changes what these guys think about. They will eventually figure it out so much that it'll just be the norm for everybody, because when somebody figures something out, eventually you figure it out, and you figure it out because you're taking a million pictures of my car, or you're digging through my data, or whatever that scenario is. So if you constantly change the target and what everybody's shooting at, it keeps it mixed up.
We'll have to see if that's something that maybe NASCAR will consider for the future. So another honorable mention I wanted to give from the weekend is to Justin Haley. What we saw out of Justin Haley in the Open.
Is he in a Ford?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, he is.
What do you
One
think
that's
about
kept at Roush or RFK.
Yeah.
But that was a bright moment for that team, for sure. And I mean,
he has a lot of those.
Yeah,
and
he does.
I hope that it pays off, for an opportunity for him to keep advancing into cars that he's fully capable of running up in the front. He's done it in the RFK car. He did it in the College car. And
he won at Spire.
He won at Spire. And he keeps continuously doing this in every car that he drives. He figures out a way to get himself to the front. I don't know a lot about the internal workings of Justin Haley, but he's obviously the common denominator that they eventually start figuring things out and showing up at the front of these races in whatever car that it is. So he does a great job. He's a great kid. He's one of my favorite drivers on the circuit that doesn't get a lot of attention. I've always had a great relationship with Justin Haley, and I think he deserves all the credit that he gets.
There's some people that I know that would put Justin somewhere between 20th and 25th best driver, like on there, if you were rostering him somewhere up there. And I was surprised that they said that. But this year, I think he's really proved that. If the car is right, and even the pit crew, right? The pit crew, for you to have a good finish, like everyone has to do their job. And he's got Chris Lawson over there now, Tic Tac, who used to be Tic Tac. Everyone loves it. Man, he's so great.
I could find a scenario to put Justin Haley in the top 10. I realistically, like, if you put him in one of those top 10 cars, I think he can compete up there. I honestly believe that.
They have a good group right now. Tic Tac was Zane Smith when they won the truck championship. So, he's made the step up, and him and Justin have it kind of clicking right now.
Good.
Yeah. Good team on his side, of course. Lots of momentum to build for him moving forward to Charlotte, which is what is coming up next. This race is pretty unique because it's a test of the driver, the engines, pit crew. Everyone has to do their job. This is a taxing race on everyone on the team.
Yes.
What is it like?
Well, I hope all those boys that were taxed last week take care of themselves this week, because it's going to be hot. And when you get to the 600, it never fails. It always seems to be like the first
hot day
of what leads into summer. It's like that humidity always shows up about this time of the year. So I think for the drivers, it's a long day. they have to be mentally prepared for what they're getting into, and hopefully physically prepared for the higher temperatures and 100 miles longer. And I think when you get to that extra 100 miles from a mental clock in your brain doesn't understand why
this
you
should
keep
be over.
racing.
Why you're not done yet.
That clock in your head always goes off, and you're like, your body's like, what in the hell are we doing? Why are we still in here? And you have to just take a deep breath and glance up at that pylon. Is the pylon still there?
It is at Charlotte.
Yeah, it's still there.
So as a driver, I would look up at that pylon, and I would look up, and it'll say halfway, and it'll say 200 laps to go.
Yeah.
Mentally, you have to prepare for that because
can't.
it is devastating. When you feel like you have run what you feel like is a good portion of the race, and you're only halfway.
Especially when you're like 25th.
Yeah.
Like when you're like not having a good day.
Yeah.
Like, and you look up there and you're like, are y'all kidding me?
Yeah.
Like,
You got to make it to dark on the lead lap. If you make it to dark on the lead lap, you're still in the game. Because when it gets dark, everything changes.
I think one of my favorite ones, 600s, was Larson's. I think maybe it was 2 years ago. Him on the radio with Clint, or not Clint, sorry.
Cliff.
Sorry, Cliff. Him on
Definitely
the radio
not
with
Clint.
Cliff. Definitely not Clint. It wouldn't have sounded the
He
same.
would not be on the pit box.
Cliff was just like, man, you got it. Like just keeping him pumped up because he thought felt like he was doing a terrible job, had spun out, and then drives all the way back through and gets his head right and goes off and wins.
And that could happen this week.
Yeah.
We saw Tony Stewart come back one year when he did his double. The first thing he did was spin out.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's going to have driven hopefully 500 miles in the Indy 500 and hop back over, and that amount of time in the same day that's a difficult transition. Not that I've ever done it, but I've seen the best of them have trouble with that as they come back to get in the car. So super long day for Larson and everything that he has to do. So he's definitely, I'm sure, got a plan with everybody as to how he needs to take care of himself. But even on the days when he races so much, on the days where you're like, everybody looks dead, Kyle's just like,
Everybody looks
He
dead.
never really,
how's it going?
he never really
It's
looks
just
like.
Yep.
Steady Eddie over there.
Was that a
like
hard
Kyle
day?
Larson.
Yeah, it was warm. Okay.
His
Little
demeanor.
steady Eddie.
Yeah.
Pretty unbelievable. Hey, but you were really good at Charlotte over the years. 6 wins there you had.
Yeah.
at Charlotte
It was
Motor
it was a love-hate relationship.
Was it?
Yeah, when I first showed up at Charlotte, I think at one time I told him that it would be better to be a fishing pond than anything else. And I think Marcus and Bruton kind of took offense to that. And they worked really hard over the years to kind of sway me the other way and make sure that I understood that we probably didn't need to have those comments. And as we went through the years, I was fortunate to figure out Charlotte a lot better than how it started, because it was always a racetrack that I struggled at the beginning, because you had all these balance changes with the car, all the unique scenarios, and it was just something that I never could figure out. But eventually I guess 2011 was the first time we actually got to
Yes.
Victory Lane.
She's got
2011.
And I think that was kind of like, all right, well, we can actually race here, and got back to Victory Lane a few more times. But it was it's a tough track. And, I think with all the bumps into turn 3 and just the bumps up high, and how difficult it is to place your car in the correct spot, it can reach out and grab you, because there's just so many unique things that go with each end of the racetrack. So with all the temperature swings and everything that we have that will happen with the day to night long race, there's a lot of things that change at Charlotte. So it's just a tough racetrack to figure out.
I'm a little surprised that you struggled so much at Charlotte, because I feel like you were so good at Atlanta when the two were, and obviously back then when you first got here, the two were very similar.
Well, I struggled at Atlanta too.
Okay.
In the beginning. And it wasn't until a tire test there in 2008, 9, somewhere in that area, all of a sudden it was like a light switch went off. And it's like I found that low line at Atlanta. And we were able to fix that problem. I don't even really know when we fixed the problem at Charlotte, but it was a severe problem.
Severe problem.
Yeah.
You mentioned the bumps. I've actually driven on Charlotte. One of the driving experience. I know that shocks both of you. The driving experience. It was scary. I was like, I don't want to be in here. I don't want to do this anymore.
That part is not
scary.
surprising.
What?
Who was your driver?
No, I was driving.
Oh.
I'm
How
saying
fast
I
did you
was
go?
125.
125.
I mean, that thing only goes to 160.
Did you feel like you were going? Like, did it?
Yes,
fast?
I'm telling you. like, I obviously have a lot of respect for race car drivers, but after I did that, I was like, there is no freaking way I could do this shit.
There was one time that we were at doing ride-alongs in some of those cars, and Stuart was there doing one, and the right front tire blew out in that thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not good.
Not good. Yeah,
Was
you're
he
still
driving?
going fast enough to hurt. No, Tony was.
No, Tony was driving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So wouldn't have hurt that bad at 125. You might not have even slid all the way to the wall.
The late models go
felt like
faster
I
than
was
that
rolling.
sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
It was
and I
pretty
think that's
scary
the
experience.
perspective that TV
Can't
that
give
is
you.
good, because on TV you don't get that perspective, right? It slows everything down. It makes it look way easier. But when people get a ride or get in a driving school car and do it themselves,
Right.
then you're going 125 miles an hour and it feels like you're going to die.
Yeah, and
because
you're
going too fast.
And the banking, and then I'm thinking about the fact that all the other people who are around you
And
in
were
the
you
moment,
like this the whole time?
I was just petrified. I'm telling you, it was
tense
one of the
and- so
scariest moments of
3
my
laps
life.
you were wore out because
like,
you
I'm-
never had a...
Did you have a little swerve in it? Like, cause the transition in
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I just was so happy to get out of it, to be honest. I was like, it's
So you
better.
wouldn't do it again?
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, it was a good experience. It was good perspective, I will say, but it was frightening.
So
at the same
were you
time.
the slowest person there that day?
Yes, I think so.
We used to have Josh. We had a go-kart track at my house, and we had like these. They would run like 6-second laps, and we would put Josh on the pole.
Jones?
So Josh Jones, and so we would put him on the pole of every race that he was there for, and we'd tell him that I don't remember what the bet was, but we'd make a bet that he couldn't lead one lap he couldn't make one lap without being last, and very rarely. I don't think he ever won that bet. If the green flag, he would never make it back around in a 6-second lap as the leader. So eventually we just got some lights and we made him the pace car.
There you go. That was
his.
him.
So you'd be the pace car driver
over here.
You could be the pace car driver.
My point with all of this is, when you're talking about the challenges of this racetrack, I mean, the teams definitely obviously have their work cut out for them. Who you kind of eye, and not your pick. Who do you think has to have a pretty solid weekend?
I think
out
it's
there in
time
Charlotte?
for the reigning champ to have his day. It's a good timing with the Fords and Team Penske specifically getting better. He runs really well at Charlotte typically.
Yeah.
So I think it's time for him to have his day this year and get his championship run.
But that's not your pick, right?
No, but you're saying that it's
You're just, he should have a good show.
Yeah, he needs to have a good day.
So why aren't you picking him?
He's got someone else picking.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not time for a pick?
No,
Not yet. I haven't said
She's just
last
asking a
call yet.
question.
I'm just saying, who do you think?
I think
teams?
that I think that the 17 and the 6, I think they have a lot of momentum right now. But I don't think you can count out the 11, the 45. And the 5.
All the Toyotas.
I don't know that it's all the Toyotas. I don't know. It seems like the 24 has gotten a little off track.
Yeah.
It seems like the 20 is a little bit off track just from all the little issues that they've been having. So I think it's difficult to understand where everybody is as far as momentum and things that are happening. But as we've seen with the Fords, you just never know when that momentum is going to swing back the other way and you're going to get out of that slump. I think the 23, I think that they have to get the wheels back on the track. Bubba Wallace and his crew, I think that last year he had a decent finish, but I think that there are definitely some folks that need to get back on track, and I want to see where Penske's at.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a lot of teams to watch then, it sounds like, as it pertains to this race.
I was just going to ask you guys think it's going to be a fuel mileage deal?
I hope not.
Well, I think it's going to be, we've got the different right side tire, so I think it's going to come down to how fast those tires wear out.
Okay. Well, it's time now for our last call.
Okay.
And first, I want to mention again the Thursday episode that you have coming up with Joey. Any teasers for what you?
Well,
guys
I think it's just interesting to hear Joey talk about we talked about race car stuff, but I think it's very interesting to hear his take on just the difference in how you have to prepare for these races and his relationship with the team and how they have to be criticized as a driver compared to how he was criticized growing up. And then he gave us some great insight on his upbringing and the things that we talk about with some of the young drivers today and where they're at and what the right path is. So we went all over the place and had a great conversation.
Yes, we look forward to hearing that. And now we will make our selections on who we believe will be victorious.
You want me to go first?
Well, if you want.
Okay.
She was already looking at you.
I was getting ready to go, but you go ahead.
You go first.
Remember you laughed at my pick last week of Kyle Larson? Where did he? I know he didn't win, but
yeah, he was close.
He was close. You thought I was a moron.
I thought it was a
for
big
that
ask, but you wound up being pretty good. Who did I pick?
Not the winner.
I didn't.
No.
I didn't pick the winner.
No.
Yeah. Well, that's the
think
way
you
it
picked
goes.
Denny.
I don't remember.
I honestly think you picked Denny Hamlin.
Oh, shoot.
Did I pick
I normally
Denny
have
Hamlin?
this written down.
All right.
think
Well,
you did.
I'm going to pick Chase Elliott this week.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Man of the
Yep.
people over here.
I'm picking Chase Elliott this week. He is great at Charlotte. He's had, quietly had just good finishes throughout the year. Won at Texas, but I just think this is his style race, right? The game of attrition, not making mistakes. These guys, he doesn't make mistakes on pit road. They're solid, and I think this is his style of race. So I'm going with the 9.
Okay, vote of confidence for the 9. I'm going with the Joe Gibbs Racing driver, Martin Truex Jr., who we have seen be very strong at this race over the years. He has 437 laps he's led this year, which is the most of the winless drivers. So I think it's time for to switch columns to a winning driver on the year, MTJ.
Okay.
What do you got, Ice Cream Boy?
I'm going
Who you got, ice cream cone?
with Mr. Cool Tyler Reddick in the
Ooh, I
45.
like Write these
He's
down.
been good here, really good here in the past. He gets up around the top. It's kind of hard to beat him when that lane kind of gets up there. There's only a few guys I feel like that can do it. He does tend to jump that cushion that we talk about.
Yes, he
Get himself in trouble here more times than other.
And it's easy to do here. And I'm not going to get way in the weeds here, but it gets rough getting into turn 1 when you get in the corner up high, and into turn 3, it's rough up there as well. But when it gets dark, it's really dark across the top lane.
And when you say dark, you're talking about rubber dark?
No. I'm talking about light.
Light.
Light
Okay.
in general. So the way that the shadows and everything are at Charlotte, it just gets really dark and darker in that top lane than it does. And it comes just a little bit difficult to kind of get that depth perception right as you get in the corner.
It's going to be interesting to see what team puts it all together. The Crown Jewel race coming up this weekend. But that does it for us on this edition of Happy Hour. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you continue to follow us, leave us the reviews, and we'll see you guys after Charlotte.
That's probably true.
You want us to stay?
Yeah, he's going to just rip it out.
They don't have to move, do they? No, you're good. Yeah, you're good. All right. Well, I want to thank Joey Logano for taking the time to come in the studio. That actually makes the interview a lot easier. But just want to remind our closers. Let me do that one more time. I want to thank Joey Logano for coming in this week and doing the interview in the studio. That was quite an honor to have him in the studio. But just want to remind all you closers out there to subscribe on YouTube and anywhere else that you follow us to get our podcast. And we'll see you next week on Happy Hour.